Hi, I'm Jan Brown. Welcome to the Focus Lounge. Today I want to talk about the mechanics of creating. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever had certain patterns that seem to recreate in your life? Let's say that you pay off your debt and it comes back, or you're in a new relationship, but the same dynamic is happening with now a new person. Or something that maybe we can all relate to. You've lost weight and it came on back. Why does this happen? Why does it feel like life is happening to you? Like you don't have any control over these patterns, even if you've tried them different ways, it just seems to come back. We need to understand what's happening here. So, do you believe that you create your own reality? Maybe something larger here is at play. Maybe what's at play is that you are creating your own reality. And you're gonna say, "Jam, I don't know. I wouldn't do this to myself. If I were creating my own reality, why would I keep doing this to myself?" I'm gonna tell you why. Because you're stuck in creating by default. Creating by default is when you observe what's happening in your life, what's tangibly already manifested, and you give your attention to it. As you give your attention to it, you recreate it. Because attention itself is creative. That's focus, isn't it? Your attention is focus. So what we focus on, we build, we create momentum towards, whether we like it or not. So most people that we know are creating by default. It's very tempting to just see what's already tangible and feel it as so real that that is the only reality that exists for you, rather than thinking, this is what is now, this is what was already manifested, and how would I like to make changes and give your focus in that direction to break out of that cycle. Because that's really what it takes is kind of like ignoring what is long enough to make inroads in creating a different way. This is how it works. Just look around at manifested reality. The airplanes we ride on, the cars we drive, the cell phones we use all the time. Those were once just ideas in someone's mind. They used their focus long enough, held their attention there in order to ride that all the way to manifested reality. Because focus itself builds momentum. How does that happen? Well, an article by Psychology Today entitled "What Actually is a Thought" explains that thoughts are measurable. They have shape and weight, and they are traveling through our brain matter. So, if you think about it, it makes sense how they gather momentum. When you first have a thought and you give it a little bit of time, even if you put it away, when you return to that thought, you don't start it from scratch, you pick it back up where you left off. That already proves that some momentum has taken place to bring it from where it started to where it is now. So it's been said that if you focus for 17 seconds, more thoughts like it start to join it. And that's where it starts to begin to iterate and to have another viewpoint and something else that adds to it. It's like a snowball effect. And that snowball effect feels good. That's where your mood starts to get excited because you're thinking and it's like the focus is bringing more to it. And as that mood is lifting and getting excited about your thought that's gaining its momentum, your expectation of that thought becomes much more believable, much more likely to actually cross the line into physical reality. It's like that dance of focus, mood, expectation. But most people don't realize that they're stuck in creating by default. They're too busy. They're just kind of like hanging on by a thread, to be honest. So, what do you do when you actually want to start creating deliberately? So let's say a person wants to make a difference in their life. They are tired of how they're living. They want more freedom or a different place to live or a different experience in their relationship. Whatever it is, they want it, but they're not really placing their focus there long enough to make any momentum happen. This is exactly where the emotional calibrator comes in very handy. It's not just about feeling better in the moment and calibrating up to, from wherever you were in the lower parts of the scale to a higher part to feel better in the moment. It also helps because let me just backtrack to say this. When people want to make a change in their life, they start to look up how do they manifest? Okay, I'm going to start with positive affirmations and positive thinking. But you can say all you want and you can think all you want. But if your base belief line is to really not believing that things can change for you, then it's not going to move because that's just lip service. The universe does not organize around what you're saying, it organizes around what you believe in. We've talked about this before. So if you don't address where you're at on the emotional scale to say, I'm frustrated or I'm irritated or I'm angry, I'm blameful, whatever it is, you got to start where you are because you cannot just place a happy face sticker on an empty gas tank. Some people are familiar with that saying. It's from Law of Attraction. Abraham Hicks has used it before. And it's so true. You got to own where you are. If you slap that happy face sticker on, you're still going to run out of gas. You didn't change anything. You're just pretending. The universe knows when you're pretending. So you got to change your internal orientation on this. Because since you are the blueprint, if the internal specs don't believe that that's a possibility for you, you cannot bring it into your reality. So when you go into the emotional calibration tool and you own where you are, then you can admit that truth. It almost feels like, okay, this is really where I am. I can stop pretending. I can stop saying things that I don't mean. And then you can just reach for the next emotion up from there. And when you can make that believable statement to yourself, then you can move a little bit further and a little bit further. And as you do, you start to lighten up. That field of possibilities from where you attract widens and more can make its way into your field. You start to believe that things are actually moving. You feel some momentum and your mood is lifting. And that's where things actually start to show up in your life different. Even if you don't know exactly what you want and you're totally not there with placing focus on what you want, maybe you know the essence of it. You want more freedom, more comfort, more money, whatever it is, you know the essence of what you're looking for. And you can feel that it's more possible now that you're identifying in the higher levels of the emotional scale. Because while you're still in the lower, more collapsed levels, it's much harder to get yourself to a place of belief that you're actually affecting reality. So I'm not going to make this super heavy handed. I want you to understand that your movement on the scale, in your thoughts, how much focus you put onto the things that you want, make the life that you experience. Conversely, when you're placing attention into areas that you don't want, that grows as well. So it's important that you don't participate in sloppy thinking. Sloppy thinking is just basically, you know that you shouldn't be, worrying and putting yourself into that place where you feel constricted, but you just can't help yourself. Yes, you can. Sometimes you got to wallow for a second, but don't stay there. Don't live there. Actively move yourself up. Once you've moved yourself up some and you feel better, then you can place focus on what you want because it doesn't feel deep down inside like this isn't going to happen for me or everything always ends up turning out wrong, whatever, you know? And just going back to the earlier examples of people who have made changes in their life and it rebounds back again, it's because they didn't really internalize those changes long enough for that to take and stay. Somewhere in that feeling within, there was a feeling of that debt could come back. I remember very well what it was like to be in that much debt, or, wow, I feel great now, but what if the weight comes back? What if I have to really monitor this so much? Whatever it is, especially in relationships, that's such an imprint, and you tend to take it along with you. That's why sometimes it's better to have like a break in between just to kind of like sort yourself out and, get to a place where you recognize what your parts were in it and maybe operate a little bit differently the next time. Because if you don't articulate within yourself that there are changes that need to be made or understood in the way that you feel about things, then you're just going to keep recreating the same exact thing. So I want to leave you with a important little ask. I want you to just notice where your thoughts go. Are you going towards what's already created or more towards what you want? This is not a judgment. This is for your awareness. Your answer is your awareness. And from that awareness is where deliberate creation begins.